where we are with blockchain right now. It's a very early phase, and it's very important that each one of us gets exposed to it. And if you don't know anything about it, that's okay. It's still early on. You haven't missed the train. But go out there, educate yourself, and understand what these technologies are.
Yeah, so to add on to that, I think a really interesting point. So I think we're early, but I don't think we're day one, right? And I think this is actually very important because, like, when 5 years ago, the conversations we were having, we were very bullish on the industry, but most people we were talking to were still worried that this industry wouldn't exist in another 5 years. That conversation doesn't happen anymore. Like, most people, out there believe that this industry is here to stay now. And that actually means that from a risk perspective, a lot of that risk is gone around this industry. I mean, 5 years ago, many massive industries didn't even exist that are now sub-industries in here, DeFi, gaming. I mean, when we started investing in these industries, several years ago, these were still very nascent, and there was still a lot of concerns. A lot of technologies developed on these. They've sort of since blown up, and so there's a ton more opportunity for sure still, and I think a lot of that risk at an early stage is gone. I think that's really important to know.
Anyone else want to add to that?
No, sure. I mean, look, absolutely agree with your analogy. If you had gone back, we're lucky that we've seen the internet, and we know that the transformative power of tech is a million X. It's not 10X, it's not 100, it's a million X. Now, because we've seen that before, we believe it can happen again. And so you really are at the stage, there will be a Google out there will be an Apple out there, but there'll be 99 failures for every one. So open field, a lot of risk, but incredible reward for those people who are willing to take those steps into the crypto sphere.
A positive note, adding to what Ali was mentioning, I personally believe investing in crypto or blockchain as general, just like investing in a new startup, right? But the good thing is, enterprise institutions itself, they're starting not to only accept crypto as a payment, but only to think how we can maybe convert our reserve, our cash fiat into actual crypto. And this will make the entire world consist in a certain way, maybe slowly, but we'll definitely reach there.
Yeah, I agree that we are still in very early stage, and we have so many different crypto applications which are designed mostly for real crypto agents, especially like going after the highest fields in DeFi, connecting wallets, changing different bridges for the lower fees, so for the higher speed, etc. It's so difficult for the average people, even for people knowledgeable in crypto as well. Like, it's not that user friendly, and it's not just simple few steps. So I think the future is when the user won't need to think at all how it works. So the users will just on, for example, interest on their deposits, etc. And another thing that not all people are really interested in investments, and especially in startup investments. So for majority of people who can keep some of their savings in the banks and earn small interest. And I see big future in the development of different crypto banks which give the interest either inside the CeFi or DeFi applications. For example, currently I advise one company called FluidFi. It's a Swiss alternative to a bank, and you can open a bank account just in a few minutes and deposit your fiat and get access to different DeFi tools, and you don't need to be technical or understand a lot of things to earn some additional passive income.
These are all amazing points, and it's fascinating to watch history in real time, the adoption just going like this. So this is going to be a selfish one for me. Let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin. Why are you not Bitcoin only? Give me your pitch, because like I mentioned earlier, I'm the Bitcoin girl up here. I believe it to be the best store of value, and some people would argue that the altcoins, they are a bubble, that people can potentially lose money. So give me your best pitch for why it shouldn't be just Bitcoin.
So I stopped arguing with Bitcoin maximalists. Let's start there, right? People that believe in Bitcoin, it's believe in Bitcoin, right? There's a certain belief to it. It's not necessarily a logical argument many times. What we have to accept is blockchain as we know it, and cryptocurrency as we know it. The first and the largest application of it until today is the Bitcoin blockchain. right? It's the longest running blockchain, it's the one that's most decentralized. Having said that, it is a, 13-year-old technology. What in technology can stand the test of time for 13 years? Is it a great technology? 100%. Did it give us a lot of these concepts that now we can apply to others? 100%. Is it, will we tomorrow not pay in dirham anymore and start paying in Bitcoin? 100% not. Will it be a store of value? Yes, right? So a lot of these other new technologies, new smart contract platforms, are solving a lot of the problems that Bitcoin has. But no, I will not go there and try to convince you not to be a Bitcoin maximalist.
Well, I want to hear from the rest of you. Yeah, I mean, there are so many projects out there, and we'll all get into more specific questions, but why not just Bitcoin?
I'm going to give a very, very different answer. So, you know, from our side, like, I'm very pro Bitcoin, but we're not just token investors. Like, we back incredible founders building things that are going to change the world. And so I'll give you an example, right? So we're the first investors in a company called Splinterlands. And so many of you might be familiar, the two biggest blockchain games in the world are called Axie Infinity and Splinterlands. And so we now have 500,000 daily active users, there's 10 million battles played per day. And the stories that we get from, you know, users, I mean, we've had so many players in the game just tell us that they've, you know, been playing for 3 years and have now, you know, made millions and it's changed their lives. Or recently, just a couple of weeks ago, we got a photo of a bet from a player. He said, "Thank you for you know, making this game. I now can sleep on this bed, and I no longer need to sleep on the floor." And this is actually just changing lives of people, and it's creating so much more opportunity. It's all about shared economics instead of, you know, the leakage that we see in other systems out there. So it's a very anecdotal example, but it's these types of stories that show that this technology can change the world in many different ways. And a lot of this started, though, with that underlying, you know, piece or infrastructure that Bitcoin set the ground floor for.
Yeah, I'll take a bit of a different track. I'll try and give the audience a bit of a framework as to maybe how to think about this stuff, because I completely agree with you, Bitcoin as a store of value. If we look at the US, it's printing dollars like there's no tomorrow. We've got 25 trillion of money in the system. The US dollar versus Bitcoin, I think it's very clear. But there's two other aspects to value, the utility and the network. So Bitcoin, in terms of the utility, they don't yet have sort of layer 2, layer 3 type of products. Like Ethereum has much more utility currently, combined with a network effect. So your token, if it's useful and there's a huge network, that will automatically drive value. So in the case of Axie Infinity, like you said, there's 500,000 people playing. In Ghana, as an example, the average monthly salary is $100. You can make $400 a month playing Axie Infinity. So the value of that token is much more linked to the utility and the network effect rather than the anti-inflationary Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has a special status. The others is a very crowded field, but you have to look at utility and network effect to see which one of those will actually do well in the longer term.
I would like to add a very simple point. I believe the value itself will always depend on two things, right? Supply and demand. When we started by, say, having the Bitcoin in place a long time ago, it already earned so much credibility along different traders, if I can say. It will take time until the other currencies jumping into this hype, so I have to say I agree with you to a certain extent.
For me, Bitcoin is a standard, it's the first cryptocurrency, and this is a long-term bet which will never fail. So for the new buyers, I consider Bitcoin is just a perfect investment, and everybody should have at least a fraction of Bitcoin in their portfolio. But if you anticipate a higher returns, you should consider as well altcoins. So I can compare